The doorbell rang on a rainy evening. I opened the door, and in the frame, I didn't see the son who left 2 years ago, but a young woman standing tall, eyes trembling yet bright, saying, "I'm home, and I am myself." In a single breath, every question, anger, and rehearsed speech I'd stored for 2 years cleared like fog on glass. What remained was a heartbeat and the memory of a small hand gripping mine. In that moment, I understood. My work was not to compare yesterday with today, but to open my arms, make room for her truth, and say the only words that mattered, slowly and without fear. "Welcome home." I stepped aside and let her in.
Good evening, and welcome to Kitchen Table Talks. I'm Pat Sajak. Tonight, our guest is David Morales, 56, from Phoenix, Arizona father whose life pivoted in a single doorway. After 2 years apart, his child rang the bell, stepped inside, and said, "I'm home and I am myself." That moment didn't just reshape a family, it reframed love, language, and how we truly see one another. Here, we set aside.
Thank you, Pat. The bell rang and I felt it in my chest before I heard it in my ears. 2 years of silence live in strange place coffee mugs you don't use, a bedroom you dust but never enter. I opened the door and there she was. Same eyes, same little scar from the bike fall in third grade. But her shoulders were lower, like she'd finally put a heavy bag down. She said, "I'm home and I am myself." I didn't have the right words, so I stepped back and said the only ones I owned, "Come in." We sat at the kitchen table, because that's where our family tells the truth. I made coffee the way she used to like it, then stopped and asked, "How do you take it now?" She laughed small, careful, and said, "Let's find out."
In the split second between your child saying, "I'm home and I am myself," and you saying, "Come in," what was most vivid in your mind? Embody a single image, a specific.
Two things hit at once, like two slides overlapped. The first was an image. A 5-year-old on a purple scooter, wobbling down our sidewalk, tongue between her teeth, refusing my hand because she wanted to do it by myself. Same eyes, same stubborn grace. The second was a fear sharp, bright off breaking this moment with the wrong word, like dropping a glass in a quiet church. My chest went hot, my palms went cold. I remember thinking, don't narrate, don't fix, receive. And then a memory sharpened the edges. The night she asked if we could leave the porch light on even when I'm late. I realized I'd left a lot of lights off, little ones. You don't notice until someone is standing in the dark. So I did the only thing my body seemed sure of. I stepped aside. The word "come" felt like something I could carry without fumbling. Everything else, explaining, asking, making plans, could wait. That single step backwards, opening the door wider, was me choosing not to make her prove anything before belonging.
Nếu bố hết dong sai và nâng chi bà nemi phê nói, nghe quando trai thêm bà muốn điều gì nhốt, và sơ điều gì nhốt và hay, điều ấy đang gọi bạn làm hành động cụ thể, nào nghe lo kê.
There was a particular kind of pain that split me open. Pata cable strung between memory and now, yanked tight until it sang. On one side were the photographs that live under my ribs. The first scraped knee I cleaned with trembling hands. The Saturday mornings spent fixing a chain on a purple scooter. The victory howl after a clumsy checkmate. None of that disappeared. But in a single doorway, those images slid on their tracks. The captions I'd written in permanent marker no longer fit the picture. That hurt. Not because my child had become a stranger, but because I realized I had been narrating the wrong melody for years and calling it truth. I walked past the trophy shelf later that night and touched the cool metal. I felt my chest season out grief for my child, who stood breathing and brave in the next room, but grief for the version of fatherhood I'd been clutching like a map that didn't match the terrain. It is a strange thing to mourn an idea. No casseroles arrived for that funeral. I had to bury a script, not a person. And while I shoveled the dirt over that script, present tense life. Her life kept knocking from the other side of the door, saying, I'm here. Stay with me. The tearing felt like this. Every cell in me wanted to keep the moment intact, to hold my breath so I wouldn't fog the glass. At the same time, another part of Maeve part that knows all belonging is embodied, begged to speak, to reach, to risk clumsiness. I was terrified of wounding her with a wrong word, a wrong pronoun, a father's thoughtless speed, but I was equally terrified of letting my fear calcify into silence. Silence can masquerade as respect. In our family, it had sometimes been cowardice wearing manners. So I said the rawest truth I had. I'm hurting because I learned slowly, not because of who you are. I expected defensiveness. What I got was a small exhale. I understood then that grief and love were not opposing teams at war. They were two hands of the same father, one releasing an old story, the other reaching for his daughter. I kept seeing double past and present superimposed. The little kid insisting by myself on the scooter. The young woman at my doorway saying, I am myself. The through line was obvious, and I'd missed it. Stubborn courage. I wanted the mercy of do-overs. There aren't many.
I hear the cable you described stretched between memory and now-how. It doesn't roar so much as pull, thread by thread. I hear how you're turning pain into small verbs, pouring a cup of coffee, rewriting a name, correcting a pronoun mid-sentence without dropping the moment. Those are quiet anchors that keep a roof on when the weather shifts. And I respect the line you drew. You're grieving a script, not the living person in front of you. That's delicate, and it's brave.
7 days? I can name it. I will use my daughter's name, Maya Morales, and she, her pronouns in every context, private, public, and paperwork, and I will gently correct any place where the old story shows up. That's the choice. It sounds simple, but it touches everything. Here's what it looks like at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. I'll update our family group chat so her contact card reads Maya Morales. I'll call Dr. Nguyen and Miss Patel, the school counselor, to confirm their records match. I'll change our voicemail to, You've reached David and Maya Morales. Leave us a message, not because Maya needs co-billing, but because I need practice making room in my voice. I'll order a new mailbox plate and put a temporary label on today so the door I open says what my mouth says. At home, I'll tape a small card to the fridge. Pause. See Maya. Speak true. It's my one beat relia literal breath before I say her name, letting my mouth catch up to my heart. At dinner with the grandparents, Rosa and Miguel, I'll set place cards and say, before Grace, we're using Maya and Sheher. If you slip, I'll help you fix it, no shaming, just learning. I'll print a one-page sheet with Maya's name, pronouns, and a few phrases we can use when we stumble. I'm not deputizing them. I'm modeling the road. When memory tugs backward, I'll treat it like weather, not a verdict. I'll step into the pantry, take 3 slow breaths, and remind myself, the past is a language I can still love without speaking it at the dinner table. If awkwardness rushes, and if my tongue fumbles, or I hear the old nickname knocking, I'll correct myself out loud, mid-sentence, and keep going. She was telling me about class. No big performance, no apology tour that drags the spotlight back to me. Just a correction, like straightening a frame half an inch. If well-meaning people test the resolve, you know what I mean. Or, it's hard for us old folks. I'll keep the door open and the boundary firm. I do know what you mean, and we're saying, Maya. If someone pushes, I'll switch to the script I wrote on a sticky note in my wallet. We love Maya. This is who she is. We're learning. Please, join us. If the room can't hold it, I'll end the conversation without burning the bridge. We can pick this up when we're ready to be respectful. I'll also give Maya a specific ask. If I miss, will you give me a cue word? She chose porch light. If she says it, I'll correct immediately and thank her.
I'm hearing a father turning love into small, repeatable verbs changing, a name on a mailbox, catching a pronoun mid-sentence, taping a note to the fridge that reminds your mouth to keep pace with your heart. You're not just saying you love Maya, you're practicing love in ways the world can actually touch. And I hear her courage reflected in you courage to admit you learned slowly, to correct without ceremony, to keep the door open even when memory tugs you backward. That moves me. Because so often the kindest thing we can do for the people we love is to stop making them earn their welcome. What also lands is your humility.
Pause. See, Maya. Speak true. That's the sentence, Pat. 3 small verbs I can carry in a pocket. 3 rails. To keep me from sliding back into the old story. Pause. The old reflex is speed fill the space. Fix the feeling. Protect myself from awkwardness with words. A 1-beat pause interrupts that reflex. It gives my mouth time to catch my heart. In that beat, I remember that this isn't a debate to win. It's a person to honor. See, Maya. Not the scrapbook version, not the projection I kept polished, but the daughter standing in front of me today. When I say see, I mean eyes, language, and posture, me whole body pointing toward her reality. If I truly see her, the next right thing usually announces itself. Speak true. Truth here is simple and specific: her name, her pronouns, what she asked for, and the love I can prove in verbs. Speak true keeps me from 2 ditches: silence that masquerades as politeness, and speeches that make me the main character. It's not a monologue, it's a bridge, plank by plank. Why this sentence? Because it scales. It works at a dinner table with my parents, at a clinic desk with forms that haven't caught up, on a sidewalk when a neighbor uses the old name. It doesn't require perfection, only presence. If I'm tired, I can still pause. If I'm scared, I can still choose to see. If I stumble, I can still correct and keep speaking true. So when the old story whispers, when muscle memory reaches for the wrong word, I'll touch the note in my wallet, breathe once, look at my daughter, and say her name out loud. Pause. See, Maya. Speak true. And then do it again.
Before we close, I want to say thank you for the way you've sat with this story without rushing to fix it, label it, or argue it into something easier. David, your honesty tonight was a quiet kind of bravery, the kind that updates forms, straightens frames, and apologizes in real time. Maya, your courage walked this story back through the door and set it gently on the table for all of us to learn from. We're grateful you trusted us with it. If something here helped you breathe a little easier, gave you a sentence you can carry into your own kitchen, know that you weren't listening alone. Around this table are parents, kids, grandparents, neighbors, teachers, and friends who are trying, like you, to turn love into small, repeatable verbs. That's the work. Not a perfect script, just presence, a pause, a next right step. This is Kitchen Table Talks. I'm Pat Sajak. If you'd like to keep pulling up a chair to conversations like this, tap subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next episode. It costs nothing, and it helps us keep the lights on literally and figuratively, so